You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast.
I'm gonna give you a nice little
Welcome to the ReRACEables Podcast. I'm here tonight with Josh.
How's it going?
Let's jump right into it. Big takeaways from season 35, episode number 7.
Snooze fest. Oh my goodness. I couldn't stay awake.
So just for the record, Josh literally fell asleep.
I actually fell asleep.
And it's not because of the 90 minutes. It's not because it's East Coast times, 9:30 start to 11 o'clock, long night. No, this was not a great episode.
There's so many reasons why.
All right, well, let's jump into the first one. And maybe this is part good. Maybe this is part snooze fest. Maybe we'll probably hit on both. But Malaina and Andrea, Team Philly Jones. Josh is number 13.
Bye-bye. Sorry, guys.
Team Rocky Balboa is hit the mat, and Apollo Creed has gotten up before Rocky, and there is no Adrian to come and say, make this a feel-good story to end, is there?
I don't know how they lasted this long. To be honest, I really don't. I mean, they never had any top finishes. They were kind of coasting along, and they made it this far, but they were way overdue in my book.
Yeah, and it seems like driving was their downfall, and we're going to get to that, but
driving was their downfall is an understatement. But
driving was their apocalypse.
Yeah.
Did their elimination contribute to the snooze fest at all, Josh?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it was over before it started. I have in my notes 3 times that Team Philly, what's going on? Team Philly, where are you? Team Philly doesn't know where they are. Team Philly gets on the wrong boat. Team Philly doesn't get the right money. The staple challenges, right? The easy things. The one where you go to the guy and get the coins. They didn't even go to the right guy and got gone for euros.
Right. And I mean, credit them that they did recognize it, that they did backtrack, but that they did eventually get there. But they were dead on arrival. They were finished. And it felt like we knew that because their errors kept happening.
Mm-hmm.
And even though there was the equalizer, it didn't matter. It never got started. They were always behind. I feel like they had one person that was strong and they had one person that was weak this whole time. Andrea was Mama Bear. She was the rock of this team. I never saw Malaina have a strength.
Yeah.
Never saw it. Even when they're driving. Who has to navigate? Andrea.
Yeah.
Who has to recognize that they're on the wrong ferry, that they have the wrong money, that they need to go back? Andrea.
Yeah.
And it was like, I felt like on top of that, what made this a snooze fest 2 and them being eliminated is the fact that if you read Andrea's body language, the entire leg, it was over. Like, it was over, Johnny. You knew they were so behind.
They were tired. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The way that they were talking to the strangers and kind of getting advice, and we have to go which way, and then they're trying to talk to the stranger to get directions, but they're not really listening, and you could tell that they were just finished.
Here on the ReRACEables Podcast, we do all of the research and all of the thinking so that you don't have to. And one thing that if you look really closely was that they were given their interview in the dark. They were given their exit interview in the dark. They didn't even show up during the light like all of the other teams. It was over before it even started, and you could look into that and see that.
I wonder if that's like a movie mistake that they didn't catch. You know how that happens in a movie?
Yep.
I wonder if I mean, I hope and pray that the producers and showrunners and everyone at The Amazing Race is an avid listener of the ReRACEables podcast here. And if they were, they would know that this movie mistake keeps happening. Whether
calling you out on your BS.
Right. Like, put a screen behind them. But I guess you want to see the natural backgrounds and whatnot. But yeah, you're right. Like, if it's nighttime and everybody else is given that confessional that is the we finished a leg confessional.
Yeah.
And it's dark in one and light in the rest, it adds up to a snoozer. So what went wrong with Malaina and Andrea?
Frankly, I think we're getting at a point in the race where we're past the merge, right? Now it's less about survival and more about winning. Who's in the top and who's in the bottom? And I think this episode has pulled us and showed us that we can start to see the teams who are competing, and we're starting to see the teams that are slowing behind.
And I think with 13 teams at the start, you're naturally going to have some team that's a shock. Well, we've had a couple. And then eventually a team like Malaina and Andrea, who I believe, if my records show, a team like Malaina and Andrea that the highest we had them ranked with was 8th. Nobody had them higher than 8th. And that was for a reason. And look what place they finished in.
Yeah.
8th.
Yeah. Wow.
Just kind of could tell from everything we learned at the beginning and then through these 6 episodes, they were always kind of on the bottom, like you said. They never had a second or a third, or I think their highest was maybe 5th or 6th. I'd have to look back, but they were never really a threat to win the whole race, that leg. They were never front runners. They were always kind of scrappy in the back and beating a team and gutting it out. And that's great. That'll get you 8th place and not be 11th, 12th, 13th. Malaina just wasn't enough. She wasn't a good enough competitor on The Amazing Race.
Absolutely. I go back to my pre-race rankings, and I see my pros are high energy and good spirits. And my cons are people will underestimate us. I'm not actually a racer, and you've never seen me run. So I think that is pretty clear in what we saw today and what we saw throughout the race. So good job, good race. You played well. You played okay. You played to the best of your ability. But now we're separating the men from the boys.
And I wonder if they, in their regular lives, drive a lot at all. I don't know if that's a thing that maybe could have contributed to it. I know that teams that live in a city, typically that can be a major complication.
That's a great point.
That could be it. I think obviously everything's in German because they're in Frankfurt, Germany. Shout out Frankfurt. But German is not an easy language. Did you see some of the names of these places? The
Everybody was butchering it.
The pit stop, Das Schokoladen Museum. Is Schokoladen? I guess it's a chocolate, but Schokoladen, maybe that's kind of close. Or they had to get on foot to the Hohenzollernbruck. Or come on, these are brutal. Like, at least Cologne was familiar and they could get through that. But the last thing about Malaina and Andrea, how insulting is it?
I know what you're going to say.
How insulting. How insulting is it that not only do they come in last, they show up to the party, the route info carnival, which was the best part. And even the way they get out is the party's over.
The circus has left the town, folks.
The carnival is over. The bikes are gone. The extras are gone. The
balloons are on the floor. Only confetti left.
Depressing music. And there they are, just walking up to Phil. And they literally say, I guess the party's over. It's the ultimate Amazing Race kick in the teeth.
The party's over. Then they had to give an interview in the dark.
Oh,
I mean, I kind of thought it was an apropos ending for a mediocre team. Showing up to the party, just being a little bit late, not even really even finishing the leg. Phil had to have traveled from where he was to get there. They clearly were so far behind. We didn't even need to watch it on TV.
if that was the end of my story, I would be completely disgusted. I would be so disgusted. Now, granted, they were so defeated that they knew it and they had accepted that defeat, which I think helped land that plane a little bit easier for them.
Yeah.
Anytime that Phil was meeting you at the what was the best part of the episode, where literally people are talking about that piece of it as the highlight of the race so far. People are literally turning their leg around.
Yeah.
From the stress of driving and into the, wow, we're in this party, we're throwing roses. They don't even get there.
Yeah.
It's just Phil cutting their whole leg off and just ending it. I did laugh out loud. I mean, it's funny, but it's so insulting.
It's so insulting. Yep.
Shout out Team Philly Johns. And we move on to more of the snooze fest here. We're trying to lighten it up. We're trying to bring some energy to it. I think we're actually trying to convince ourselves in a way it wasn't a snooze fest.
But Tom, when you start to break it down, I don't know how they set us up for success. Mustard, locks, come on.
They tried to start us off with an equalizer.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. What is the whole point of racing if you're just going to keep getting equalized? If you're coming in first, you deserve to be in first. You deserve to have that edge. I don't want to show up and then realize, wow, the team who just barely made the cut is now next to me. Oh no, they're actually ahead of me because they got a closer seat to the front of the plane. Come on. Where are the days when you show up a day later? Where are the days you got to sleep out? Where are those days? You tell me that we're bringing back the old Amazing Race, that we're bringing back airports. We weren't even in the airport. Show me the airport. Show me what's going on. You're not even doing it.
You went a little Seinfeld there. Where's the airport? Where is it? The lead that Greg and John had going into this leg was 40 minutes over Robin Corey was in second. And they were just under 2.5 hours over Robin and Chelsea.
Wow.
They did lose somewhat of a lead, but as we'll get to towards the end, they did end up coming in first, spoiler alert, again for a second straight leg. But we're obviously out on the equalizer. It has to happen. We get it, but begrudgingly we swallow that pill. It doesn't add that element of excitement like we were saying, the airport and all that.
So what was interesting is when we started the episode and they said that we're going to Germany, and Robin was saying how she actually knows a little bit of German, and one of her children was born in Germany. And then Ashley and Todd were talking about how they also had a connection to Germany. How do you feel about these teams that are world travelers versus teams that are like, wow, I've never been there before? Does that change the leg for you?
It gave me hope that it wouldn't be a snoozer. I wanted to see Robin's emotional connection to Germany.
Yeah.
I wanted to see her talk a little bit more about her living there for 3 years and her child being born there. We got that at the very beginning, before the equalizing flight even. That was it. It was over after that. We didn't hear another word about it. Todd and Ashley lived in Frankfurt. Maybe they didn't say another word about it. Maybe they did. I love hearing that people travel, to go back to your original point. I love it too, because I think it's going to give somebody an advantage.
Yeah.
And I'm a competitor, and I'm a future amazing racer with my partner, Josh, here. and we're going to crush it and we're going to win. CBS, shout out. CBS casting, shout out. And I think traveling and having the experiences in other countries and all of that should be an advantage. And I like when teams have an advantage in the race in some way, shape, and form. Why is the NCAA basketball tournament exciting? It's because they rank teams 1 through 16.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the other reality. And it's a dirty little secret of the tournament that everybody loves there. We actually like the favorites.
Yeah.
We don't want to see the underdogs win.
Yeah.
You know why? The ratings change.
The
ratings aren't as good.
Sure.
Right? When the 16 seed beats them, like, yay, that's great. And then it's like, oh, well, they're actually kind of a sucky team. Like, we don't really want that. We want a clear team to root for that's the number one team. So when we hear that two teams, Robin and Chelsea, have somebody who lived in Germany, we have Todd and Ashley who lived in Germany, I want to see that advantage. And I guess we kind of did.
Yeah,
because
that's a good point.
In the end, where did they play? Second and third.
Yeah.
So we did kind of get that. And I personally, reflecting on that, I like that.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's exciting to watch teams that are good, when people are being strategic and actually challenging and whatnot, versus a team who can't even make it to the end of the race. That is not good TV.
Continuing on this exploration of the Snooze Fest episode, is driving exciting in the episode? Is driving ever really exciting in The Amazing Race?
Yeah, I don't know if driving's exciting, but I do think travel's exciting. And I don't know if it's because it's actually traveling, but I think it's an insight into who these people are. I mean, I really enjoyed Annalie and her dad. They did get a little bit snappy with each other. Not that I enjoyed that per se, but I enjoyed seeing who these people really are. I enjoyed the Morgan and Lena, that's how sisters fight. They were yelling at each other, get out of the car, I don't even know how to drive a map, I don't even know how to read a map, like that.
Stop screaming, it's annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. Or I mean, even the stay-at-home moms like getting snappy with each other, like that is what's so interesting about the sociology factor of this. How do these people relate, and how are they as humans, not just how do they run down the block? So I think that there are snippets that's exciting. And it is exciting to see, oh shoot, they just made the right and we're going straight. How do we get back? What do we do? That's exciting. Or, do we turn? So there is some drama there. I would say overall, yeah, I'm more intrigued when somebody puts diesel in the gas engine, or when somebody gets a flat tire. But for the most part, I thought it was okay this time.
I agree. I don't think this fits the piece of the episode being a snooze fest. I feel like this was kind of at least my hope that there would be more to this episode when they're driving to Cologne in Germany. I loved seeing Robin and Chelsea bicker at each other.
Yeah.
And you almost think, like, are they going to just start hating each other?
Yeah.
Are these friends going to turn on each other? You love seeing Joel and Garrett just get lost, but just handle it.
Yeah.
Just handle it. Their kind of clownish look to them matches their way of handling adversity in the car. They're just self-deprecating. They are, when they finally find the garage, they're like, oh my gosh, that was so easy.
Yeah. I wonder if they did not expect to get this far. And so they're just kind of like, sure, now it's all money, right? At least we didn't get eliminated first, and now we could just have fun.
Totally. But then I like the tension too.
Yeah.
So to circle back, right? Let's say for Morgan and Lena, they at the very beginning, I had them ranked in the bottom quarter because I thought they were going to be like this always. They gave off that their biggest weakness was their relationship, and that they were going to be annoyed and poke at each other and get on each other's nerves. And it takes putting them in a car like their sisters, to really set that off and make them literally stop screaming. It's annoying. right? But my favorite piece of tension, and I wonder if this tells a story looking into the future, was Steve and Annalie.
Yeah.
Father and daughter put into a car. Daughter's driving, not the father. Father is supposed to give the directions from the back seat. I don't know my man Steve, but I gotta believe Steve is not the passenger in the car too often. I guarantee he's got a pickup truck and he drives it all over, or his tractor or whatever he's got. I mean, he's got the whole, the Texas heat going thing. But I feel like he's never in the back seat. He's never doing that. And you saw the tension. I wrote down spiraling. Were they spiraling out of control there, right? You're going to sit your ass back here. I can't see from back here. Only so much a person can take, Annalie. Like, I wonder at some point, does a father and daughter who came in with the relationship that we learned they had, again, we only learned so much, but, this far into the race, they got the U-turn on the previous leg. Now they're in the car bickering. They finish with another fifth place. They're in the bottom half again. We get the tease for next week where she just flat out says they're stupid. And she's throwing a tantrum.
Yep.
Shout out Annalie. She knows we love her. Are we seeing a decline here with them?
I hope not. I hope not. Because I think I've changed my whole outlook on them. I really enjoy watching them. I think they have a lot to offer. I think that they are eclectic. They bring in maybe just as someone who is from a city, they bring like a lifestyle that I'm not really familiar with, and I think that that's really interesting to hear and see.
Totally. They're a window into another part of our country that we don't have. And I think this tension and what the driving in this episode brought out is that really brought out some drama, tension, and something that they needed to turn around. And eventually they did at the Root Info.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, right? That now teams are starting to get comfortable. Now they've been on camera for a couple weeks straight, and they're like, the cameras aren't even there anymore. Now they're just being themselves. And hearing Steve like lash out a little bit, whether that's the one time he's yelled during the whole filming, they got it and they aired it. And I bet many people can relate. You get into a disagreement with your dad and he is kind of stern and stubborn, and that's what you're going to hear.
If my dad goes on a trip or my mom goes on a trip and they're on that trip too long and they're with friends or they're with their partners, whatever, guess what, folks? After about 6, 7, 10 days, they've had it.
Yep.
They've had it. My man Steve, we love Steve. Dare I say, for lack of a better way, his senior moment where he's just like, he's the old guy and he's just had it. Like, he's just, especially if his daughter is in the front seat being cranky.
Yeah. I mean, I also clocked that I would have thought that he would be driving, especially because they know each other. They know that she's a little bit louder. She kind of like likes to drive, not literally, but figuratively. And I think that he likes to drive literally.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure why she was driving and listening to his directions. It seems like it was kind of set up to fail from the beginning.
I agree. I think so. And maybe that's stereotyping on our part, but so be it. One more thing about the driving that I think actually was interesting. We mentioned it on the Power Rankings podcast, and it was about Rob and Corey.
Yes.
We talked about how they're the most interesting team from the beginning, from the Power Rankings, from the first time we even met all these teams. And we finally got to see a little bit of their systems when it comes to driving and communication.
If you know me, I love a system. And their system was pretty good. Really, really interesting in sort of writing out directions and handing them to his father and then signing into the back mirror. That's a team that they understand each other. They know their role and they do it. And you know what? They execute every single time. They are the rock solid team of this season.
multiple second place finishes. They threw a fourth in today. I loved it. I loved seeing it. I love learning about it. I love kind of the quiet that happens on the episode when Rob is signing and we have to read the subtitles. I think it just creates such a different viewer experience. Like, I'm taking notes. I'm trying to prepare for the podcast. I'm trying to enjoy the show. But when they're interacting, you have to look up. You have to see the subtitles to know what they're saying. You have to see how they're actually communicating. You know, the two copies of step-by-step directions. Like, I want to see what it looks like. Like, I want to see the notepad that they're writing in. I want to see there. He's holding it. Literally, he's got his hand on top of the steering wheel and he's holding it right like that. And I also, you know what else I loved? And I think that this would be a great strategy for any team, is that why shouldn't you have step-by-step directions? Why shouldn't you write them out?
Yeah.
You think Malaina and Andrea could use step-by-step driving directions? Hello? So again, Rob and Corey, shout out to them. Love them. They continue to be the most interesting and fascinating. There's just such pure joy between the two of them, it seems. And they're just, not only are they communicating that to each other, they're communicating that to us. Oh, it looks like driving was actually quite the opposite of the snooze. I always think it's a risk to take math into account. Okay. The first roadblock was who's ready for change, where they had to pay off a robber baron with a currency called Witten and how much the Witten was worth. And they had this little wooden house board, and 1 groschen, 24 heller, and 4 heller was equal to 1 rappin, and 2 rappin is equal to 1 Witten. I teach 7th grade. I'm a special education teacher. Shout out to Todd. I'm sure he has some similar thoughts on this particular challenge. Is math a good challenge to have?
I think I have mixed feelings about this because I'm a numbers guy, and I actually enjoyed seeing a little bit of a numbers challenge in here. I mean, what I'm trying to think about is, why is like a word scramble more interesting than a math problem? And we get word scrambles all the time. We get like looking challenges all the time, and we don't complain that they're boring. But why is suddenly now this fraction problem? Oh, this is like awful. Was it the fact that some teams are just good at math and walked in there and did it in 1 second and walked right away? You don't really get to see that when there's a word scramble. You don't just have teams just get it in 1 second and power through it. Did it need to be a harder math challenge? I don't know. But even as a numbers guy, I do have to agree, it really wasn't exciting to watch. All of the teams went about it through math, except one team. And that's Chelsea and Robin. She said, I don't care about numbers. I don't know anything about it. I'm not even dealing with this. I'm going with 1. Okay, I'll go back to the doorway. I'll come back 2. Okay, no, okay, 3. And all the way up to 15. And that's what she did. Did it take the shortest amount of time? Probably not. Did she not have any capacity to think? She had none. And she used what she knew. And I got to give her props for that. I don't know if I would have thought like that.
Well, when you put that purple on, you become a problem solver. And that's what Chelsea was. I love the use of process of elimination. I love that she knows her own limitations. She saw the layout of that particular roadblock challenge. And that was the best strategy. And she was committed to it, and it worked. And bink, bang, boom, she went on and moved on. Was that outrageous? Yes, it was outrageous. Right? If there was at least like an incline, a hill or something that she had to run, 100 yards to get up and down each time, would she have been able to do that? Probably not. But if you can hack the challenge, you hack the challenge.
Always.
And you move it along. One thing I will say, what I didn't like about this math challenge, first off, you only saw the board for probably 3 seconds, right? That good clear shot.
Yeah.
You don't see it for long enough. What I would have loved to have seen is have some visuals on the screen.
Yeah.
Help the viewer, especially the kid sitting there, maybe in some household that's 10, 12 years old in 7th grade, who's doing proportions and whatever. Like, show them how Greg and John figured it out. Show them how, or Morgan and Lena, they were the first ones, right? And Morgan scurried off saying, I went to the number one MBA school. I know math.
Yeah.
Right? How'd you do it?
Yeah.
What was the math? Like, what was scribbled on your paper?
Yeah.
What visual could you put on the bottom of the screen that would just kind of morph the numbers into the right proportions to just know what the thing is, and then a little bing, like when the person figures it out. I'm thinking of like the first down line that's projected on a football field, and it makes the viewing experience better than if the first down line wasn't there. Like, for something like the math, left on its own, it kind of stinks. It's kind of a snooze. But if you throw that on there and you show how people are working through it, if you show where people are on the driving, here's the end point, here's the beginning point, and you have little flags or little tacks in that are moving with their faces to see where people are on the drive, to see where people are with the math, I think that would make a difference.
I think you're right. And just like what we were just talking about before, the difference between a word scramble and a math problem is that we know what the word is. And there's something exciting as a viewer knowing, how are you not seeing City of Angels when we see City of Angels every single time? Yep. But you're right, this math problem, without knowing what the actual answer is, we're just kind of sitting there saying, all right, you're going to do some math in your head, I guess. I don't really know. I'm not really invested in 15, whatever. You hear that, Amazing Race? We need and want more graphics.
Come on.
Can I add one more thing to that challenge?
Of course.
Strategy. Again and again and again, Anna Lee keeps pulling out all of the shots. And this time, she used Todd's strategy against him. Todd, the guy who says, you know what, I'll go try this one and I'll let you know if this is it. Let me go first. She says, oh, Todd, you just did 15. I'll go try it. Let me go try it and I'll let you know if I get it. She didn't do the math. She didn't do the thinking. She took his number, played his strategy against him. And you know what? I got to give her props for that. Strategy. I'm impressed, Anna Lee.
Since I think we pretty much debunked it being an actual snooze here, or maybe it's just a great episode of the ReRACEables podcast. we mentioned the carnival at the top of the show because Malaina and Andrea, again, hilariously but insultingly, were eliminated at the party that was already over. But we did have some great juxtaposition here with the carnival when it was going on, because people were coming out of the driving, they were coming out of the stress, they were coming out of the tension, switching drivers, all of that to get to this route info task, which was the Cologne Carnival, the short obstacle course on the ridiculous tricycle, throwing the roses, the costumes, the band, the locals.
Well, as a route info, it's a lower number, but what I do have to give it to is that the race is not fun when we don't get to enjoy it. And I think we talked about that last episode, is that they were just running. They were just running all the time, and that's also not fun to watch on TV. But this was their chance to ride a tricycle, throw some roses, literally stop and smell the roses, and get to enjoy what it was like being there without having to think too much. Even the players were thinking too much last episode when they had to light the candle of what they wanted, like what was their dreams. And they just kind of like haphazardly thought through it and kept moving. But this, they were kind of forced to take a couple of minutes, get changed into that clothing, and ride around in that obstacle course. And I appreciated that.
It was the highlight for us watching this episode. They're having fun. They're putting on the costumes. They're getting this cultural artifact of Germany and Cologne that they would never otherwise see. And they also delivered some pretty funny lines, because not only are they all so into it, and it really revealed, I think, the bright spots of people's personalities,
Mm.
like Rob being so into it, doing his turning abouts, and then at the end in the confessional, just signing to his son how weird it was.
Yeah.
That was great. Or my man Steve, right? We go from Steve spiraling at it in the car with his daughter to Steve the mayor on the tricycle, blowing kisses. Like, it was amazing. It changed Morgan and Lena's whole leg.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
totally flipped their entire mood and everything. And Joel and Garrett, like, are in that carnival essentially. That they fit right in, like, with this whole the beard and the mustache and like the kind of clown look to them. Bike or roses? What would you have thought to be doing in this in this task here?
Well, Tom, I have a bit of a confession to make live on the ReRACEables podcast. For many years, I wanted to be a clown in the circus. I loved the clowns. I wanted to be a part of it in every single way. I got a unicycle. I was practicing my unicycle skills. I was juggling. I was trying to make people happy. I wrote in my yearbook that I wanted to be a clown in the circus. The too long didn't read is that I did not actually fulfill those dreams, but I would have happily done both. I think I probably would have done the roses just so that I could have been with the people and showing face.
Yeah, it's both good options, but see, I would have loved the tricycle, the oversized tricycle. I mean, that would have been right up my alley. So there you go. We're a perfect fit for that. The roadblock, the part that takes the wind out of the sails of a challenge like this. And I know it's inevitable, and I know that it's what you would do if you were the person doing this task. It's what I would do. It's what most of the teams did. Your thoughts on them just immediately asking strangers to look up on their phone what the actual cologne is, and they get the number, or aka the combination to the lock immediately.
Yes, but it's an insight into our lives. You know, I was with a friend this weekend, and even something as small as, oh, what's the biggest Broadway theater? Nobody says, let's analyze and discuss the big theaters. You say, hey Siri, what's the largest theater? You know, and so we immediately turn to our devices. Oh, thank you so much, Siri.
Shout out Siri.
Hey Siri, stop. Yep, see, that's how integrated our lives are with technology. So did I hate it as a viewer? Yes. But is it what is capturing the time? Absolutely. This also goes back to a bit of our graphics discussion before. I wonder if we saw a full length of that lock wall and knew exactly where those locks were,
Would have
and
loved
then
that.
watched them walk past it 10 times, I bet we would have been on the edge of our seats. But again, we had no direction. We had no idea what we were just kind of standing there watching them look, and it wasn't exciting for me.
Right. Give us a little red circle with an arrow or a spotlight, right? As Joel just marches past it. Or on the bottom of the screen, the bridge, like a drawing of the bridge. And you know, the 8 different locks with the little pins in each into the bridge. Lock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and see which ones. Put the S for start wherever. I think that would really make it that much better. I do.
I agree.
The oldest person in the race, Steve, was on this roadblock. And how did he figure it out? He didn't stop somebody and say, can you look up on your phone, blah, blah, blah. He just said, hey, does anybody know what he just said it out loud. And somebody responds to him, yeah, 4711. So he did his own way of doing it, but it was actually the standout way of doing it. That added to it versus the, hey, can you look up on your phone? And then just, I don't know, that kind of annoyed me. Going on, was the lock and the whole thing too obvious, not obvious enough, or just right?
I mean, looking at it individually, I thought it was a bit much, but watching the teams, they did struggle a little bit. So it seems right in my mind. I wish that there was another level of the challenge, though. It just didn't seem that exciting to like find this giant oversized padlock and then you just run away. It's like, why are we finding a lock? Or you have to then jump into the water to get a key to open the lock, and in that padlock is your next clue, right? There was no like, so what? You just got a lock. Okay. What are you gonna do? Okay, sure. I don't know.
Right. It would have been great if they had to, pull a page out of Survivor's book, grab some keys, dive under the water to
Yeah.
unlock something. Yeah, I'm in on it. And then one of them is just soaking wet for the rest of the
Yeah.
leg.
Remember, wasn't there like a different type of flag or a different color flag for season 1 that they ended up having to change it to red and yellow?
I don't think it was season 1 per se. Maybe the original flag was red and no, it was yellow and white. But I think one of the first times they were in Vietnam, they changed it from red and yellow to red and white because Vietnam's flag is red with the yellow star.
That's it. Interesting.
So interesting that they kind of leaned into that. I guess that is kind of a snooze.
It's a big snooze.
Okay. Last thing here before we go to our power rankings. The detour was just for kicks or a matter of taste. Interesting that they kind of went with just for kicks, which was a version of darts where you're kicking soccer balls and not throwing actual darts. That was kind of cool. I've never seen that before. You had 4 shots to get exactly 66 on the dartboard. Really hard. I wonder how they came up with 66. And then on the other side of the detour, you had the matter of taste, which was all about sampling 9 mustards by taste and the German name, remembering them, and then saying the names and matching them with an expert. We had the national sport, soccer. We had a national delicacy, I guess you could say, with mustard. I thought the real takeaway of this particular detour was teamwork.
Mm.
And if you just looked at the challenges themselves, again, it was kind of a snooze, right? Kicking the soccer ball at a big giant inflatable dartboard, probably fun for about 5 minutes, and then that's about it, as Todd and Ashley proved. Even though they had the right coaching, right? Todd was feeling good about it, but they switched. It was too hard. It was for the task they needed to complete. It was kind of silly. But on the other side, you had a bunch of mustard tasting. Like, is that interesting, Josh?
No. Why is it interesting? We need to bring back these miserable tasks. The ones that you have to like jump in a pile of cow poo and then grab the needle in the haystack and spend all day doing it. We need the ones where we're watching them chase after the goats that they can't actually chase and they're diving to try to get them. We need the ones where they have to carry 100 beer steins and can't do it and are struggling to do it, and then they consistently keep dropping it. Those are the challenges that we want to watch on TV. That's exciting. Tasting some mustard. I'm glad you are getting full, but you know what? I don't really care.
Survivor does this on purpose, and they design their challenges in such a way it's really smart, right? On the merge challenge last week, you have to go through mud, and the players wear the mud, and the mud is part of the sanctuary and the merge feast for the team that wins and earns the merge, and the team that doesn't, they have to walk off the challenge just caked on with this mud. Or when they have to jump in, they get wet or they're muddy, and then they have to go through that, like, not sawdust, but like wood chip scraps, and they look like they got tar and feathered kind of thing. Cover them in mustard. Make them save 4 shots from like professional soccer players taking shots at them.
Yes.
Right? Like, let's see somebody diving around and like with the gloves on and throwing the hands out, or verse a team in a PK situation.
Yes.
I feel like that could be much better than shooting at a dartboard. If they miss, it's like, all right, they suck. Like, I don't want to see the 16 seed
Yeah.
get blown out by 70 points against UConn for the umpteenth year in a row. Like,
Yes.
not interesting. It's just not. Like, I think there's better things to be had. Cover them in the mustard. Dip the sausages in on each other, and they have to eat 10 sausages. Love sports, love mustard, love sausage, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a great point, right? Like verse a professional soccer team and watch them get owned, right? Or have them have to eat a pint of spicy mustard that's super, super spicy and watch them sweat. Give them a whole ton of bratwurst and give them meat sweats. Like find those challenges. We want to see them miserable. Make them miserable. That's good TV.
And we want to see them conquer it.
Yes, you're
We
right.
want to see them
Right.
conquer it.
You're
I
right.
want to see how good Todd is at kicking the ball.
Yeah,
I want to see if he can beat the professional goalie from the club team in Germany.
yeah.
I want to see his 6'4" body trying to do the psych out when he's trying to stop a professional shot.
Yeah.
I want to see Steve and Anna Lee take down some sausage and try to beat a clock to eat 5 sausages together or whatever the giant sausage with they have to eat these 9 cups of mustard too. I want to see that. Food challenges are great.
And circling back, I think that this is where it's interesting when you can't get it on the first try and you have to keep going and it's enjoyable to watch them not get it. But you're right. It's more enjoyable to watch them get it because you are rooting for them and we're rooting for everyone on this team. And perhaps going back to that coin challenge, finishing it the first time and walking right through it. That's not exciting. That there's no drama there. There's no rooting for anyone. You're just kind of sitting there watching it, letting it happen, to be honest.
Let's end the podcast with an update on our power rankings. Andrea and Malaina are out, and some big numbers are coming off the board.
Boom, boom.
Nicole and me had Andrea and Malaina ranked 8th. They finished 8th. So clap it up for that. Shout out to us for having Andrea and Malaina exactly where they finished in the race. That's always kind of cool.
That is cool.
Josh joins the ranks of the crossing off your 13th place team / the team you had dead last didn't win the race. Josh had Andrea Malaina, his dead last, number 13.
I just want to thank the Academy. I did not think that they were going to take home the victory, and they didn't. So I am really, really proud of myself for not putting faith in Philadelphia because they will always let you down.
So with that, some big numbers came off the board. 8 for me and Nicole, a 13 spot for Josh.
Wow.
Nicole is still in last with 60, a low score of 60. I'm only 2 points better at 58, and Josh is way out in first place, still by 12 points over me and by 14 on Nicole. Congratulations, Josh.
Thank you. It's interesting when you think about it as like in terms of was this a good season? I know we're not quite there yet, but when we look at our power rankings, we pretty much had most people in the same areas, and that's not what happened on TV. And we've seen over the years, the teams that we think are going to do bad don't always do bad. And the teams that we think are going to do good don't always do good. Does any one of us have our first team still there?
Well, we all have Greg and John up in the higher area.
Yeah.
I feel like Greg and John and Todd and Ashley are still the hope that we have that one of our top ranked teams can still win. I think if we would have done the rankings 10 different times and really just erased our brains and put out another set of rankings for the season and erased our brains, and if we did that process enough times, we all would have put them first at least a couple of the times.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think, again, I had them kind of interchangeable with my other three at the top. So I just happen to put them fourth. I know you have them second. Nicole has them third. Todd and Ashley, you have them third. Nicole has them fourth. I have them fifth. We're kind of all similar there. The discrepancies really come with number one, Chelsea and Robin.
Yeah.
And number two, Rob and Corey. Those are the two biggest discrepancy teams remaining. And we will see where they will shake out. Will Purple keep this run going? We thought Chelsea and Robin had a good flash in the pan with that first place they got. Then they dropped back down. Then they were last episode, lucky to still be in it. But now they're back up into second place. Craig and John, second straight win. Do you see more Jocelyn and Victor in them, or?
I see them staying at the top. I think that they're one of the strong teams. And I think that there's still a few weaker teams that we need to get rid of, and that's going to happen in the next few weeks.
All right. Well, we will be excited to see that. We will be excited to cover it all here on the ReRACEables podcast. So thank you to Josh. Shout out to Nicole. She'll be with us next week. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our Instagram and YouTube and all of our social media here. Head over to tribalcouncilblog.com for all Survivor content, as well as links to our other previous ReRACEables podcasts from this season and other seasons. And thanks for listening. Really appreciate the support. We'll see you next week.